Hello, good evening. The following research group and research project to be presented uh, comes from Semillero SIPSLEX from Universidad Nacional de Colombia. The group is conformed by Jefferson Steven Lopez, Ana Catalina Saavedra, and me, Juan Esteban Quintero. The title of the project is The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly of Working in Call Center Jobs. Perspectives from English Philology student employees. As you might have could infer, we will be treating the topic of call centers and the call center phenomenon uh, in the students of the Department of Foreign Languages of Universidad Nacional de Colombia. So, in order to delve into the topic, I want to read a little excerpt from a narrative that we performed, and it goes like this. My perception of English speakers turned considerably negative because of the fact of having to solve their issues in their language with little cooperation and constant mistreatment. Besides, the realization that this industry benefits not only mistreating customers, but also companies that profit and take advantage of their geopolitical position to hire irrationally cheap hand labor has antagonized me against an intangible figure of American imperialism that I find so closely related to customers, also victims of this system. Okay, so after having explored this narrative, I must confess that this is an extract from my narrative. That's my perspective on call center jobs. I worked as a call center agent, and that basically motivated our interest in researching about this topic, about the experience of philology student employees involved in call center jobs. We started recognizing how these call center jobs could shape our perspective of the use of language, but also, and most importantly, how it can shape our professional identities, maybe drifting us apart from teachers. In that sense, we wanted to explore the relationship between the call center jobs, the teacher identity, and dropouts in the career. Knowing how common the topic was and the lack of exploration of the topic in the department drove us to start this research project. In relation to that, we established the following research question. How does participation in the call center environment shape learning investment and identity construction of philology students? And in order to answer that question, we established the following research objectives. The general one is to problematize the phenomenon of call center student employees from a language investment perspective in relation to professional identity. What we mean by that is that these call center jobs offers an alternative from the regular teacher identity that is offered to us in the degree, and that can be a tempting decision. Our first specific objective would be to characterize the reasons to take a call center job, so the motivations of our students to take call center jobs. Second, we describe the learning opportunities afforded by the call center jobs, which are undeniable and not few. And third, we analyze the main challenges encountered by student employees when negotiating their identities as employees and language learners or future bachelors in philology.
To start with our theoretical framework, we must define what is language investment in call centers. So we must understand what is language investment. And Norton says that it is a sociological construct that focuses on how language learning is configured by social practices, life experiences, and stories. So this language learning is just not an act of agency, but a complex phenomenon, as we can see in the table in the chart. The identity, the capital, and the ideology are interacting among each of them. But what is ideology? So Norton defines it as how people understand their relationship to the world, how their relationship is constructed across time and space, and how people understand their possibilities for the future. And the call center, the identity is deeply shaped by a hierarchical positioning. So the higher we are in the call center, the better we're going to deal with the world. The second sphere, the capital one, we use the definition of Bourdieu that capital is like a representation of power that has three main layers: the economical layer, the cultural layer, and the social layer. So the capital is related with income, with means, and in the call center we can see this income a very very good improvement, high improvement. Then the cultural one that is related with skills and qualifications, we can see that in the call center we access to the language and the culture. And the third one, the social sphere, the social capital, that is related with meaningful in terms of power, social relationships. We in the call center have access to powerful networks and also to the possibility of getting better ranks. And the last one, that it is ideology, we use the definition of Althusser, that ideology represents the imaginary relationship of individuals to the real conditions of existence. So ideology and the real world are interacting and influenced between each other. And the ideology that the call center possess is one of the entrepreneurial self, that this way of seeing ourselves is like an enterprise, and also that basically the call center tries to merge or self-reliance or self-fulfillment with their objective as an enterprise to get profit of ours. The second concept is affordances in language socialization, obviously in call centers. So language affordances is defined by Rama et al. As the opportunities for learning or the interactions provided by a context about the abilities of the learner. So in the call center, obviously Woodlock and Lookwood highlight that these work environments offer distinct affordances for the socialization and mastering of the language, like various settings, like interacting with the customers, but also interacting with the co-workers. And the professional identity, we must define what is professional identity, that it is like a complex and dynamic construct related of how each person perceives, defines, and expresses concerning their work. But also, as Watson states, we cannot just have a stable definition because we understand the professional identity as a negotiation in the work environment. And also, as stated by Albilson and Whitmuth, there is a substantial effort for the enterprises to try to merge our individual fulfillment with their objectives, that also this change of identity and also our professional self, like we cannot see the clear division between each of them. And the last one is the professional identity of undergraduate students, that this is very marked, as Chavez Rojas states, by shared practices and individual representations, and also these institutional roles, but also the factors as pedagogical expertise and the utilization of teachings as a vocation contribute to this development, as stated by Huang. So also these have an other role, the call center, because we can find in the second part of this research that the formation and also this interaction with the call centers functions as a way of being more connected with the teacher persona in the philology students. In the literature review, we can encounter with three main investigations. The first one is UNICA's, carried out in 2007, in which he analyzed the technological and management techniques in four call centers in the UK. And the author found out that the call centers wish to conduct business in an economical, calculable, predictable, and controllable as possible manner, this including people. The second investigation is carried out by Del Bono and Bellini in 2008 about experiences in two groups of agents in Argentina. So they concluded that the perception about the quality of the job was highly linked to their socio-economical needs, previous working experiences, and their professional perspectives. And The last one that was carried out by Vaseva, Singha, and Gabriel in 2014 analyzed and captured different perspectives in an Indian call center, in an offshore call center. And they basically came out with two main conclusions: that in this call center, our relationship with English was a very corporate relationship, with English taken as lingua franca with better varieties than others. And the second was a rejection of the West community, just relegating these operators just to a mimicry process but not entering to the speech community.
Okay, so now for the research methodology, we basically followed a qualitative paradigm of research with an inductive construction, which means that our categories were constructed after the collection of data and based on that data. Our research design is descriptive and analytic. The context, as we mentioned before, it's students in foreign language department in Universidad Nacional de Colombia. The participants were 25 students of the department who have had experience in working in call centers. The instruments were basically a piloted expert reviewed survey. So the 25 students who participated did it by the survey. And the data analysis that we will be performing is going to be based in grounded theory.
To continue with the next part, we have data analysis and interpretation. Here, it's important to mention that given that we're working with ground theory, the categories of analysis emerged from the data. So we have three categories that we have established according to the data, and these categories are experience working in a call center. That's the first one. The second one is perceived access to resources, and the third one is salaries in the call center. Regarding the first one, experience working in a call center, we find that there are more students saying that their experience was positive than students saying that their experience was negative. The reasons why are classified into 6 stable categories. And these categories are study and time constraints, workplace environment, financial aspects, anxiety, burnout, pressure, language skills, and satisfaction. So, those are the reasons why they considered that the experience was positive or negative categories. Then, in the same first category, experience working in a call center, we find first the overshadowing of initial advantages. So, students who enroll in a call center job can find some advantages and they feel motivated by it to enroll in that work. But later on, as they keep on working in a call center, they find that those advantages are overshadowed by the demanding nature of the work. It's important to remember that students are precisely not only call center agents and workers, but students. And they find that balancing that academic life with the work life is difficult. The second part is related to the workplace environment, and here we have mixed answers. So some of the students say that the environment is chill and that the flexible schedules allow them to fulfill their responsibilities, but some others say that it's exhausting to constantly be under surveillance and for others to be measuring your performance at every moment. So that's also important. The third aspect that we want to share with you is about financial compensation versus pigeonholed career prospects. Again, the economic factor is a strong motivation for students to work at a call center, but this is also hindered by the fact that they don't feel like they are growing or escalating professionally within the call center. So they can be agents for a very long time and still not be able to feel like they are growing. So that's important as well. The next part is about the emotional burden and the exhaustion. So, having to deal with customers that don't treat them nicely, having to deal with stress and anxiety because of that hard to get balance between the academic life and the work life, and many other factors lead to an emotional exhaustion. And the last part is about the positive aspects on language skill development. So, in this part, we will talk about it in the next part, which is perceived access to resources. Again, a majority said that they could perceive uh, access to resources. So, in this part, um, most of them said yes. And those who said yes, we have categorized their answers about what type of resources they have obtained through working in a call center. The first and the most important category is language development. In this part, we have speaking in terms of speaking with native speakers of the language via phone call. Then we have fluency. They consider that the work helped them become more fluent and they widened their vocabulary. In the other part, there's listening, specifically authentic input, and then active listening. Some other students, less students than with language development, but still some students consider that they could develop soft skills, mainly the acquisition of knowledge about tools and technologic devices and how to deal with them effectively and learn how to manage them. And then there's also giving and receiving feedback in terms of assertive communication. And lastly, there was one student who mentioned that they could develop a cognitive skill, which is multitasking. And lastly, we have salaries. So here are two charts that are one of them is for students who have worked at a call center in the past, and the other one is for students that are still working there, that are currently working at a call center. And we see that in the first chart, the range of salaries goes from 2 million pesos to 3 million pesos, while in the second chart, it goes from 3 million pesos to 4 million pesos. And this is pretty high considering um, the job market here in Colombia and the labor opportunities that young people and young university students have. But when we dare to compare it with the salary of a US call center agent, that sort of money is seen as paying way too low compared. So the US salary would be from $476 to $714. So it's important to see that the salary that call center agents are paid here in Colombia is way less than they should receive for their work.
Okay, lastly, for our discussion and conclusion section, we have categorized the outcomes of working in call center industry into three different categories. We find the good, which is what agents earn from the industry. Here we will find economic capital, networking and professional growth. We will also find language skills improvement and development. And lastly, a key aspect that will be further developed in paper, and it is the return to a prospective teacher identity. Next, we have the bad. which is the direct affections of the industry into the agent. Here we will find the commodification of language, and also we will find emotional exhaustion. Lastly, we have the ugly, which are all those internal aspects of the industry that cannot be changed and therefore must be tolerated or normalized, but that they somehow also affect the agent. Here we will find the fact of being victims of a labor arbitrage, so being taken advantage of, basically encouraging the discourse that cheap labor can be found and benefited from in the global south.